Hi folks, Michael Mann here with N to Z Toolbox, bringing you the second ever video answering questions submitted by young professionals. I remember being a 22, 24-year-old and often going, man, I can't figure this out, or what's the deal with that? And sometimes I would talk to a boss who was a mentor. Occasionally I would call or text my dad, but a lot of times I just left the question unanswered and eventually figured out the answer through trial and error, which sometimes took years. And so definitely trying to save you some time and effort and energy along those lines. If you want, check out my website, nztoolbox.com, because part of the business and what I'm doing over there is helping to provide even more tools for young professionals. Have a cohort where I'm teaching success secrets, how to get 1% better, how to be a reliable person, and how to be a high caliber team player. Also have individual coaching to where we sit down and I make you a personal development plan saying, here's where you're at. Oh, this is where you're trying to get. All right, we'll fill in everything that needs to and has to occur to get you there. And then all that's left is for you to execute the plan. Got some blog stuff and some other things going on. So definitely check that out if that interests you. All right. So on the second video, our question's coming to us from Will. And let's see what he has to say. Will says, how should I go about negotiating my first salary? I'm desperate for a job, but I also feel as though I'm worth more than X amount of dollars. Will, this is a fantastic question. And this is one, strangely enough, that I gave no time and no attentiveness to when I was coming out of college. It ended up working out in the end, but I'll explain a little bit of that in a minute in my answer. So the first kind of thing I would say in beginning to attack this question for you, Will, would be that I would be careful not to think along the lines, if I'm you, of feeling as though you're worth X amount. You obviously have skills that you're bringing to the table, but a lot of times what young professionals will initially base their feelings of worth on in terms of compensation is their education. And I don't want to burst your bubble here, but that is of almost no importance and almost no value to most companies and most employers. If you're going into teaching or education, something where educators care about education, it's kind of this cyclical effect that goes on there, then of course it's going to be a big deal. What was your GPA? What's your degree? And that kind of thing. But in my experience, a lot of employers, unless it's for a really specialized type job like we talked about last time with being a doctor and accountant, a lot of employers just want to know, do you have a degree? What is it in? And then they move on to the next thing. You stressing that test and trying to eke out an A to keep your GPA 1 point higher, unfortunately, does not have a ton of impact, because why would an employer care about that? What does that do for the company or do for the boss? Maybe it shows that you're diligent or any of these kinds of things, but you can show that on the job or even through interviewing well. And so again, I would be careful and try and put that to the side of thinking I'm worth this amount or I deserve this amount. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but that's just how I would think about it. All right. The next thing I would kind of say along these lines is, if I was setting out to find my first job out of college, as I did years ago, I would sit down, look at kind of my expenses, look at what I have going on in life, and say, okay, this is the range I have to be in terms of pay. If you live in Atlanta, Georgia, that's going to obviously be a higher range than if you're here where I'm at in Athens, or specifically Winterville, Georgia, where the cost of living is a good deal lower, right? And so look and say, okay, I need to be making 50 to 60K. I'd love 160. You're probably not going to get that, but I'd love 160, but I have to be in that 50 to 60K range. And then buy a new car and go to the lake and save up all this 401k money. That will come later, and that becomes momentum that can compound over time. But you need to look and kind of figure out the range you need to be in. Then I would just translate that over into the jobs you're looking at. If a job's posted at 35K and you need to be 50 to 60K, I would not apply for or waste my time interviewing for that job or anything along those lines. You can definitely find jobs with good bosses and healthy cultures and companies out there that are going to be in a fair and reasonable wage range. And so that's kind of how I would attack that, if that makes sense. In terms of negotiating your salary and everything like that, if a job maybe say is posted, or in interviewing they articulate, hey, the pay for this is, X dollars an hour or 45K a year, and you're looking going, man, we're not too far off here, but I need to be in this range for my bills. I personally, as an employer, have always appreciated when employees are just open and honest about that and say, hey, I don't mean to sound deserving of anything for a job I don't even have yet, but I need to be in this range kind of for my bills and for my cost of living. Is there wiggle room here? Or is there a way that you're willing to kind of move up that direction and sort of meet me there? And then follow that up with, when I come into work for your business, into this workplace, I'm going to give my best every day. I know your values. I've researched them, and I'm going to live those out. I'm going to be someone who's going to make you more money, or who's going to help you make more profit, or who's going to help expand our reach to customers, or any of those kinds of things, and sort of be able to pitch and clarify and articulate why it is that you deserve that amount. If you come in though saying, I know it's posted at 45, but I really want 85K, and again, I graduated with a 3.94 GPA, that's probably not the best plan of attack, because again, that employer can hire the next person at that fair, reasonable wage rate, and they'll just move on to them. They don't have any need or reason to consider you. When we're interviewing, or I'm interviewing someone and they want to negotiate on pay a little bit, the question I'm asking myself isn't, do we want to pay this person more? Because the business has resources. The question is, what value will this person add, or what value is this person going to bring to the table? And are they going to have that pay's level of impact? There's nothing worse than hiring on someone at X amount, say per hour, and then their output and their impact being $1 or $2 an hour lower than that. It's a really challenging and frustrating thing. You might think for the boss, and it is, but more so for that employee, because then you're trying to pull them along and sort of hold them accountable and ask and expect that extra amount from them. And it's just frankly something a lot of times that they're unable to give, and it can cause frustration and tension on their end, and it's not good for the business. A business's prerogative is to serve their consumers or their customers. Any good business, that's priority number one. You look at, say, Amazon, their focus is on the experience of their customers. How can it get to you quicker? How can we keep the price point lower? It's all focused on the customer. And so again, a smart business or a smart boss is looking at you when you walk in going, will this person help us better serve and impact the consumer? Or is this person going to have sort of a neutral impact and just be another person on the bus? Or is this person going to make our job harder and make it more difficult? And so I hope this is all helpful in kind of answering your question. In terms of background for me, I came out of college, began working for Chick-fil-A while also juggling a unpaid church internship, kind of all baked into one. And I remember having conversations with someone, a close relative of mine early on, who was like, they're paying you what? You're in there 36 hours a week, working till midnight, covered in chicken and all these different things in the kitchen, and you're making what? You're worth more. You need to be making more. This company will pay this company will pay that. But at that time, I just remember thinking, I enjoy this work. I'm challenged. I'm being grown every day. I'm being invested in. I have a really good couple of bosses, and I see a path that lies further down than how many dollars can I make today, that gets into I can make more in 2 years or 5 years or 10 years or even beyond by playing the long game. And I think there's something really important about that. Again, assuming that the pay is something to where you can pay your bills and you're not having to walk to work 6 miles instead of having gas in your car and that sort of thing. Even when I got promoted up out of sort of base employee role, I was still objectively probably a little bit undercompensated for a period of time. But again, I just remember thinking, I love the work, I love the people, and I know that I can have these conversations when the time is right, when I've really shown my value here to not only catch it up, but then hopefully have it continue to grow and advance over time. And that's exactly what happened. And so my income in terms of my pay continued to increase over time as I had the right conversations, and even as people initiate it with me. It's a great feeling when the boss comes to you and says, hey, you're crushing it, you're really getting after it, I'm going to give you this bonus, or I'm going to increase your pay to that proactively. And for that to happen, you have to be working in a healthy culture, a healthy environment where the boss is someone who wants you to be fairly compensated. But if you think of it, Will, in terms of playing the long game, I know what I need now, and I'll use that to gain and grow momentum over time, over the months and years ahead to come. That would be my recommendation. The only place you'll get in trouble with my advice here, again, would be if you're kind of overstuck in a corner with an incapable boss or a company that just genuinely does not care and is not paying any attention to you, to your well-being, to your growth. And in that situation, the solution is not to negotiate for more pay. To me, the solution is get off that ship that's headed the wrong direction and go find somewhere to where things will be done in an equitable manner, to where your output is matched with your compensation. Don't forget to grow and to learn and to gain experience in your early 20s. Experience and networking and growth, to me, is of much more value than pay, because it can skyrocket your compensation as your career advances on, versus you could get a little more now. Let's say, carrying bags of sand or something, manual labor, a little more now, but then you'll stay more flat over time, and it ends up being a short-term good decision, but maybe not the best long-term decision. All right. Well, Will, I hope that's helpful to you. And I definitely appreciate the question. A lot of the questions I received were along the lines of either compensation, or should I be saving up, or how should I be budgeting or allocating my money. And so we'll definitely have more to come on those in the days and weeks to come on these videos on this channel. Again, as I'm kind of getting the channel going, like the videos if you would, if they're helpful, subscribe, post them on your social media, whatever the case is. And again, want to get helpful content out to others, and it not just be seen by me sitting here in my den or anything along those lines, for sure. And so, as I said in the last video, if you disagree or agree or find something particularly helpful, drop it in the comments. If you have any other questions beyond the scope of this video, again, just drop that in there, and I look forward to addressing those soon. I could sit here and do this all day. This is sort of my why, is helping grow and develop younger professionals and move them from in, which means in process, part way along, to Z, and kind of helping them grow and develop. And so this really gets me going. I enjoy it. I'm passionate about it. And again, I learned some of this stuff through reading or through mentorship, but a lot of it I just had to learn through years and years of trial and error, and what about this, what about that kind of thing. And definitely want to not give you the answers that are on the test, but give you the tools, thus the toolbox, to where then you can use the right tool, you can put in the work, and it can expedite your career, your growth, your progression, so that you win and so that the people around you win as you impact them, whether that be through you having more money to where you can give to your church or give to a cause that's important to you, or buy a friend a meal or anything along those lines, for sure. All right, that's what I got for you today. Again, I'll have more of these rolling out soon. Like I said, if you subscribe, that'll pop up for you to where you know when I post another one of these videos. And I hope it's been a good usage of your time. Pass it along to anyone else if you think it's valuable, and if you think it could help lend insight to someone you know, someone you're connected with in your network. Thanks, and I hope you have a blessed and productive day. See you soon.